Welcome back to another wonderful day of Emunah and Bitachon. And we're focusing today a little bit on what Chovos Halevavos discusses here on page 135 about those that give you money. He says here, if let's say a person, he gives a thing like a pious man once said he marvels at a person who gives a person, let's say a wealthy person gives someone money, he lends them money or he gives them a donation, things like that, and then he awaits the thanks. He's like, why didn't the guy thank me? He did what Hashem wanted him to do, the Gzeres HaBarei, and the person got what Hashem was going to the person should get. So the benefactor shouldn't be like, oh, well, why didn't he thank me? Meaning the concept of hashgacha included in hashgacha pratis, is that everyone gets what they're supposed to get, how they're supposed to get it. So now, really, he also says, part of what Chovos Halevavos is saying is that he's marveling at the people who, the recipient, all of a sudden becomes so like, oh my gosh, and he starts being machni and humbling himself to the giver. He has to humble himself to Hashem. Again, we once spoke about this, and I want to just reiterate it. There has to be a very fine balance between saying thank you and appreciating it, and you definitely have to appreciate what the person gave you. Rabbi Groner says that a person can't just be like, oh, you know what? Chovos Halevavos says that guy's supposed to give it to me. I'm not going to even say thank you. Chas v'shalom. You have to be makir tov. You have to recognize the good. There's tremendous avoid in recognizing the good, but at the same time, there's that balance of recognizing the good, thanking the person, but also realizing that it comes from Hashem, that the person is only an emtza'i, a medium between the Rebbe Shalom and you. Your job is that medium. Your paycheck is that medium. Your benefactor is that medium. The person who did you a favor is that medium between Hashem and you. Now, the thank you that you give to the benefactors, thank you for choosing to be the shliach of Hashem, to be the emtza'i of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Right? That's what you're saying. Thank you for choosing to be that shliach between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and me. It could have been somebody else. You chose to do it. Concept of megalgal and schos ha'idei zakai. Things come into the world through people that are zeicha. I would want to elaborate on that for a second. You have to be zeicha to be zeicha. You have to be zeicha to be zeicha, which means you have to be a zakai, a good person to bring goodness into the world. Megalgal and chayva ha'idei chayev. Bad people bring bad things into the world. Look at the bad, I don't want to say his name, but the one that led World War II, that whole terrible party that created the whole World War II, and Yimach Shemai V'Zichrei, we don't want to say his name even, right? Not that, I'm not saying it's awesome, I'm just saying I don't want to say his name. I don't need to say out his name. I'm not making a psak asr, it's my sensitivity. But the one that the whole leader knows, the leader of World War II, right? Such a horrible person. So he chose badness, and therefore badness came into the world because of him. He chose to lead the badness into the world. And the opposite, when you choose to bring goodness into the world, so that means you're pure. You want to bring goodness. Every time you do a mitzvah, you're zeicha to do a mitzvah. And Rabbi Tzaddik says, every time you do a mitzvah, it widens the circle. It's a vicious cycle in a good way. You get to do more mitzvahs and more mitzvahs and more mitzvahs. I do tzedakah a little bit. I get to do more tzedakah. I do chesed. I get to do more chesed. I do Torah. I get to do more Torah. Everything is a cycle of goodness. And the more good you are, the more good you're able to be a conduit into this world. That's what it means, megalgal and schos. So the thank you give to the benefactor is that thank you for being a good person that brought goodness into the world. Fire. Thank you for doing goodness, so you brought goodness into the world. But again, everything is hashgacha. Every dollar you make is hashgacha. Every chesed you get, every kindness someone gives to you is hashgacha. You're driving down the street and you happen to see someone stuck on the side of the road, right? And you happen to have an extra spare tire in your car, and you happen to know how to call chaverim for that person. That's all HaKadosh Baruch Hu is allowing the hashgacha pratis to allow you to do the goodness for that person. You walk into shul, okay? And a person standing at the door is like, oh, by any chance, could you do me a favor? And it happens to be you could do the person that favor at that given moment. You happen to have what he needs on you. That's all hashgacha pratis. Hashem allowed you to do that. But that's the focus of what hashgacha pratis means. I'm understanding that with Emunah and Bitachon that HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings all those things into the world to allow it to happen. I said the story over once. Rabbi Freifeld was once sitting in the sukkah. Rabbi Freifeld was sitting in the sukkah, and it was after a rainstorm, and the old bamboo, right, still dripping a dirty droplets of rainwater onto the table, and he's eating his soup, and a big droplet falls next to his soup. And his Talmud was like, oh, Rebbe, Hashgacha Pratis. It fell next to the soup. So he looks at him, he says, it would have been Hashgacha Pratis, it would have fallen into the soup also. Hashgacha is everything. Hashgacha is it works out, it doesn't work out. It almost worked out, it didn't work out. You got the money, you didn't get the money. You got the flight, you didn't get the flight. You got, everything is Hashem running the world. Our job is open our eyes, look around, focus on it, and allowing ourselves to be the conduit for that goodness. That brings goodness into the world. Becoming a conduit for goodness is becoming the conduit, is the attachment from HaKadosh Baruch Hu to the next person. How do you do that? Let yourself be Zaycha. Do goodness. Bring more goodness into the world and allow the goodness to happen. So back to the way we started off. The way a person creates a zone and thanks the benefactor is understanding that that benefactor, that person that gave it to him, is the person that chose to be the conduit from HaKadosh Baruch Hu to you. And if that person chose not to do it, and you're supposed to get it, the next person will do it. And this is something, we just finished a beautiful campaign in the yeshiva. I want to thank everyone for reaching out and your beautiful messages and your beautiful donations and for helping the yeshiva. And it's fascinating to see, when you run such a campaign and Baruch Hashem, so many people respond so beautifully and generously and help the yeshiva, you see how some people say yes, some people say no, some people say maybe, some people say I'll give a little bit more, some people say I can't give as much and less. And all that is all hashgacha. Because whatever the yeshiva is supposed to make, the yeshiva will make. How? Hashem is going to decide how. People are going to decide to be that conduit or not. And that's really opening our eyes, is absorbing that. And I just want to finish off with something I said last week, and it's something you need to remind yourself. We could learn, and we could know it in here. But to get it into the heart, says the Kotzker, from here to here, from mind to heart, is the same distance as from here to the moon. It's thousands of miles away, because you can know. When you get into this situation, to put it to actuality takes effort, takes learning, takes a practice. So don't get disappointed if you know it and you're like, how come I got upset? How come it bothered me? Because that's the process of life. Process of life is a learning. It's a journey. It's a learning process. And us learning Emunah together with the people around the table, on Zoom, with all of you that are listening, the process is we learn it, we absorb it, we hear it over and over, some of the same concepts, a little bit different, a little bit more, elaborate on it, get it in, and B'ez Hashem, from here to here, will become a shorter distance. Have a wonderful day. Emunah, Bitachon, health, money, and everything good.